Bungie has been caught multiple times ripping off art from other artists that have nothing to do with Bungie. I don't even know what this video is about. That's how bad it is. I don't know if it's about Marathon or Destiny or maybe one of their other games like the original Halo games. Who knows? Who knows at this point? I don't think it would be any of the original Halos. I think that team, the people that worked on those games, they're not here anymore. This is completely different Bungie. The judge ruled against Bungie as they're exposed. For what? I'm guessing that it's Destiny because that's what they've been in court for.
Bungie is a very embarrassing company. That is a great summarization of this video and really just this company the last couple of years. Every dumb scandal that they've run into, it feels like something that could have been easily avoided, but yet here we are. And this video originally was just centered on...
Dude, that happens all the time with these corporate companies. They're just so stupid. They're doing things badly to make more money. They're cutting corners. Doing things as fast as possible. If it's done, it's done. No need to look at it anymore. No need to think about it. Where did it come from? I don't know. But it's here and it's done. We got to put it in because we got to move on to the next thing. Money, 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 money.
Destiny 2 and that ridiculous lawsuit that has turned into something so much more, but this video has spiraled into something completely different because of some recent events surrounding Marathon and the fact that Bungie just blatantly stole the entire identity of an artist's artwork and used it for Marathon. It's a whole thing we're going to get into, but we're going to start.
I hope that person takes them to court. They said that they wouldn't, but I think that they should. I think the internet might pressure them into, is it a girl? I think it might be a female, but I don't know.
With this. In 2024, towards the latter part of the year, Bungie's CEO is criticized for spending millions on classic cars as called for leadership changes escalate. This is right around the time that hundreds of employees were being fired. The CEO is putting out letters saying like hard times have hit us all, and
yeah, and then also cutting corners for costs.
It's like, no, it hasn't. You just spent $2 million on a vintage car, and you're saying all this to employees that no longer have jobs. And actually, one of them pointed out, you also invited me to come see your new cars 2 days before you laid me off. It was just a very embarrassing headline. And that really is a great summarization of Marathon.
Yeah, I bet he didn't know that they were going to get laid off. I bet he decided that day, like, oh, here's our numbers. We have to lay people off. We might as well do it right now.
I actually had a chance to play this. I've seen the trailers and everything. I thought that the art direction looked phenomenal. More on that later. But the more I played it over the last week or so beforehand, it just extremely boring. I think that's something a lot of people felt. You can see that with the player numbers. We'll get into.
I think the art direction was cool. I think it's a good art direction. Too bad they ripped it off. But there's no soul, and it is flat and boring. They should have done more with it. They could have literally, if they would have just cell shaded it, that's all they got to do is cell shade it, and it will fix all the problems people have with it looking boring.
In a second, but this has been a common thread with this extraction shooter since it debuted, well, since it began development a couple of years ago. We had in 2023 reports coming from Tarkov players that yeah, they didn't care at all for this either, and now we got to have our own hands on it.
People who play extraction shooters are talking about how they don't like this game, and it's an extraction shooter. So who's the audience they're going for this Marathon game?
And there's nothing unique or striking about this. Well, comparisons to Concord, I think some people find it completely unfounded, but I don't know. I see some striking similarities, which I said in the previous video, it really should scare Bungie.
Yeah, like the color choices, the oversaturation of things, how flat everything looks, the character designs, how they're just like uncanny, look like they're trying to be edgy and cool, but it's made by people who aren't edgy and cool. So it's just wrong.
And so far we haven't heard anything, but I do think that eventually they're going to delay Marathon. It just has to be based on all the scandals and everything that has happened. But
hopefully they just cancel it, you know? But if they don't, then I'm going to be here to react to it and react to that disaster.
But yeah, and then there was also the fact that the original Marathon director was fired following a misconduct investigation.
Of course. That's what always happens at these companies that try to virtue signal.
This was also around August 2024. Just so much chaos. And then obviously, as I alluded to just a second ago, they laid off a couple of hundred employees. This was right after they released a massive expansion for Destiny 2 that, received critical, acclaim from critics and users, but there just wasn't enough engagement with it. And I think that really just says a lot about modern day Bungie and the fact that their brands, their franchises is starting to dry up, and the interest with Destiny and even Marathon, it just isn't there.
Yeah, well, they keep getting rid of the actual good people, probably because the good people want more money from these companies, and these companies don't want to pay more money, and they're like, well, we can just use AI, or we can, hire 3 people who get paid less than your 1 check to do the thing that you were doing. Probably way, way worse. But hey, it's cheaper. Doesn't matter. We make most of our money off of microtransactions and storefronts and battle passes and all that. Well, eventually the bottom falls out.
Which obviously should scare PlayStation, who invested a couple of $1 billion into this company. Now, this is what I mean. The Marathon closed alpha. Yeah, this is striking. You gave out codes just to a certain amount of players, and even myself, I kind of gave up after about a day or two. But yeah, 7,000.
That's what pretty much everybody's been saying. Like, they gave up after a day or two, and we can see it.
1,000 players was the peak, and it immediately lost about 80% before it was over. That's not great. And especially with this being a paid experience, there's just so many red flags with Marathon right now. And, with better options in the market, especially with extraction shooters, and nothing unique, going for Marathon except for its art direction, Bungie's PlayStation, they have to be terrified right now. And this is what I mean. Right around the same time, we had Arc Raiders, another extraction shooter.
I hope they are terrified. They should be terrified. They need to know that they can't just make slop games and we're just going to eat it up.
That had a lot more players engaged with it during its own alpha or beta or whatever it was. And yes, the footage that was coming out, the impressions were a lot more positive than Marathon, which a lot of people were extremely just not feeling it. And I think the overall sentiment is the same thing that I've said. It's just that it was kind of boring. There was nothing that really made me want to stick with this and really spend money on this product. But
well, see, the way they're gonna fix this is the content that you're playing now is not the content you're gonna be playing on day one. They're gonna add a map and a couple new things, and then they're gonna roll out stuff over time. But what if it's bad? What if what they roll out is bad? Look at Destiny 2. Half of the stuff they released for Destiny 2 was bad. And even the good stuff when it first came out had problems. And then storefront and microtransactions on top of that, battle pass and all that.
Yeah, this has been the big thing that has been talked about lately with Bungie, and it's a massive lawsuit that was started around October of 2024. We talked about this months ago in a news video of sorts. It seemed like a lawsuit that was really destined to go nowhere.
Yeah, I've reacted to this situation a couple times. Whenever there's a big update is usually when I react to it, or when somebody's talking about it and it pops up into my YouTube feed.
Destiny 2's Red War campaign accused of lifting plot elements from online story in Louisiana lawsuit. And this individual accused the game company of copyright infringement related to Destiny 2's 2017 storyline, The Red War. Yeah,
this happens too many times for just to be coincidence. I think there's something rotten inside Bungie. Probably the whole thing is rotten.
Plaintiff Kelsey Martineau, who in 2013 and 2014 created work under the pen name Casper Cole, alleges that Bungie lifted elements from a story he published on WordPress.com, a random WordPress, and the similarities a lot of Destiny players have said it just doesn't make any sense.
By the way, it's not just these 2 instances of them being caught ripping stuff off. And the one he's talking about right here with the Red War campaign, it's like kind of generic sci-fi stuff. Maybe they didn't rip it off. But if you look at the other instances, you can't help but to come to that conclusion.
And this is something that should be easily defeatable in the courts, but it's not going that way so far.
Yeah, because Bungie's stupid, and they deleted the content, so they can't even defend themselves.
Specifically, this is what the lawsuit said. Defendants have deliberately and intentionally copied the character's storyline and other protectable expression from Martineau's work in the infringing game. This is what the claim said in October of 2024. The claim includes a laundry list of examples from Martineau's work in Destiny 2 that the plaintiff claims is proof of Bungie's wrongdoing. Including in each story are mentions of groups known as the Red Legion
If this was the only instance of this happening, then I could have been like, well, you know, it's generic enough that maybe. But now I'm just like, no, they totally ripped them off. I don't even care. I don't even care anymore.
With the suit pointing to character similarities between Destiny's Dominus Gull and Martineau's.
Even if they didn't, doesn't matter to me. They've done it too many times already with that Nerf gun, you know, couple of instances.
Overlord Ynera. The document goes as far as to say that both Red Legion factions mimic one another and that their goals directly overlap, blah, 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 blah. They say that there's a bunch of other narrative connections and similarities. That means that Bungie absolutely stole it. And, well, again, a lot in the Destiny community found this completely unfounded. It's a stupid lawsuit, probably going to go nowhere. And then there was also some updates. This individual also made claims that the Curse of Osiris expansion also stole further of his work. But this isn't where
I can believe it.
This lawsuit is going in the direction that you may think, because Bungie, they did push back on the lawsuit. They said the claims don't hold up, and then they pretty much went to the courts and said, let's just dismiss this lawsuit. It's ridiculous. But the problem is they don't have any material that they can show in court. Like, they can't even actually go into their game and say, yeah, this is obviously fake, because all of that content has been vaulted up to this point. Bungie's lawyers have to use fan videos of old Destiny 2 content in court because, well, it doesn't exist in game anymore. This is one of the big reasons why I've never actually...
What does that mean, vaulted? Because if they can't access it, what does vaulted mean? It means that it got deleted. It doesn't exist anymore. If they can't access it, it doesn't exist. It's like a fragmented hard drive.
Been able to get into Destiny 2 because you don't know where to fucking start. And a lot of Destiny 2 players have said that there's like a 10-hour video that you can look to, but that's just absolutely insane. And one of those long time issues that Bungie has never been able to really figure out. And now it's coming to bite their ass in this lawsuit. And we have seen further that Bungie explained in court, saying they will explain why there's no feasible way to play Destiny 2's vaulted Red War campaign, even internally in new court filings.
Because they're incompetent and stupid.
And yes, they put in their court filing 13 hours of video and fan Wikipedia pages as evidence to go against this lawsuit. It's just so dumb, and that's what I mean. This company is just so damn embarrassing with everything that they do. But yeah, Bungie has made clear in new court filings that the original Destiny 2 Red War campaign isn't just gone for players. It apparently no longer exists in a playable form within the studio itself.
So, like, what if they accidentally rip off their own content, you know? What if they accidentally re-release something that they've done before without even realizing it? Thinking it's something new. And they sell it to you for $60. Man, that'd be insane.
And then how did the court react? Well, this is the reaction. Court denies Bungie's attempt to dismiss Destiny 2 Red War lawsuit, refuses to consider YouTube videos and wiki pages as proof. And it's a...
Yeah, because wikis are made up by just random people and can be wrong. And they can go in and change it themselves. And that doesn't show what was actually done, what was actually played and experienced in the game.
Damning assessment, but in its motion to dismiss, Bungie included links to fan-recorded YouTube videos and summaries from Destinypedia, again, fan pages, to show the content Martineau was accusing of, well, that they copied apparently, since the original campaigns were removed from Destiny 2 years ago and cannot be accessed by anyone anymore. But the judge was not on board with that. And
good for that judge. He's doing what he's supposed to do. Completely owning Bungie because they're stupid and greedy.
And it goes on to mention that Bungie archived the original code that comprised the Red War and Curse of Osiris campaigns, known as Legacy Builds. Game director Tyson Green's declaration reads, however, the Red War and Curse of Osiris Legacy Builds can no longer run because the outdated code is incompatible with Destiny 2's underlying operational framework, which by the way means that when Destiny 2 is over, that is just going to be gone. Everything's going to be gone. You won't be able to play it. Evolved considerably since the Red War and Osiris campaigns were retired. As a result, Bungie cannot feasibly provide the court with the original Destiny 2 game as it existed in 2017. And just the idea that they're potentially going to lose this lawsuit because they can't access their own content with their own lives, it's just... Like, people have been complaining about this forever. That they just remove content and you're not able to go back and play it. And they could do it. They can easily make it replayable. Well, they can't now because they vaulted it, but going forward they can.
And they should have been doing this the whole time. World of Warcraft did this.
Honestly, so embarrassing. And this is just modern day Bungie. Everything that they touch, it feels ruined right now. And
other MMO games can do this just fine. What the fuck is the problem, Bungie?
this is where we take a turn with this video, because this is where we get into another scandal that exploded while I was starting to work on this video, and it's just even much more damning about the state of Bungie right now. And this company has been accused of theft a couple of times. We talked about this in previous news videos over the years. There was the big Nerf replica scandal that happened in September of 2024. This lawsuit was, well, it wasn't a lawsuit, but this scandal in which an individual accused Bungie of stealing, it was blatant. Like, this is the evidence. It's extremely blatant, and I'll put a better image on the screen so you can see for yourself. But whoever, one of the individuals, the contractors that they hired to make, they just blatantly stole this design from this artist on a different website.
Yeah, what they probably did is they looked up on Google Images, saved a picture, and then made a design using that as reference.
And Bungie obviously did compensate the user. They apologized, but it's just one of those things that it just keeps adding up. And then we had another individual that came forward right around the same time that this Nerf replica scandal was going on. They actually responded to the artist, the original artist of the Nerf replica, saying, "I don't think I've ever talked about it publicly, but this isn't the first time this has happened. I had my work ripped off in 2012 when concepts from Destiny leaked," and yeah, that's pretty blatant there. And just...
Wow, I didn't even know about this. I didn't know about this one. This one's insane. Like, they straight up ripped it off. It looks like they took the picture and then drew over it. Like they traced it.
Another little scandal that popped up. Obviously, it looks like a Bungie concept artist took directly from this individual's work, didn't credit, obviously. Then there was also the fact that Destiny 2 used fan art for a new Witch Queen trailer back in 2021. This was another thing that was...
I could see them, like, plugging in the art into like a generator and being like, change this slightly.
It's just as blatant. And in each of these incidents, Bungie has come forward, they've apologized, they've said that they're going to compensate these individuals in some manner, and they have. It's just the fact that this keeps on fucking happening.
And it's probably, there are probably other instances where they rip people off and we just haven't found it. We just probably haven't seen it yet. There's probably some content coming out in the future that they've already made that they're planning on releasing that's been ripped off. And they probably know it, and they're just hoping nobody finds out.
There was also this one. This was another striking one that happened.
Yeah, this is one that I knew about.
Around 2024 last year, around the same time the Nerf replica thing was going on. Destiny 2 artist says Bungie never paid for copying fan art a year after promised compensation.
You don't say! I didn't know about this, where they said they were going to compensate them and then they didn't. But it makes sense. I could see Bungie doing that.
We actually heard from a former Bungie lawyer that explained why this never happened, and it's because they fired the guy who was supposed to make the payment.
Of fucking course they did! What the fuck, man? Are you serious? That, I mean, like, you kind of deserve what you're getting.
It's just like I said, this such a fucking embarrassing company. And now this gets us to the big Marathon scandal that's going on right now. Marathon Alpha draws new plagiarism accusations against Bungie as artist says game is plastered with stolen art. And no. It's not just plastered. The entire identity of Marathon was directly stolen from an artist. It's just so blatant. And this individual, this artist that's accusing, they don't seemingly want to mask.
And they shit all over the artist too, because this looks gross. Like, the designs of, like, the art that's in the game looks really good. And that's what they ripped off from the artist. All the stuff they did themselves, like all of the objects, are bad. All of the art on the objects, really good, but that's because they ripped it off.
Of lawsuit, but they probably are entitled to millions of dollars based on the fact that the entire identity, the entirety soul of this new Marathon reboot was lifted from their own work. And I just find this funny. Individuals were saying in response to some of the new Marathon images back in April, new Marathon looks like someone scrolled down Behance and Pinterest for 20 minutes and just saved everything they saw. That's exactly what fucking happened here.
100% that's what happened. That's what I keep saying has happened. Like, they go on to Google Images or Pinterest or whatever it is, save a whole bunch of stuff, and then use it as reference.
This is the artist, N2, or Anti-Real.
Well, in this case, they, like, straight up actually blatantly ripped it off.
The Marathon Alpha released recently, and its environments are covered with assets lifted from poster designs I made in 2017. And this is what I mean. Look at this. They didn't even try to make this a little bit different. You have Marathon right here. The Aleph, I think it says, Dark Space something logistics. They literally just copy and pasted it over to Marathon, the actual game.
I think the artist needs to get 25% royalties, in my opinion. Like, as long as this game is out, 25% of the profit of everything. I think that would be good. Good compensation.
And the entire identity, this is just one little, there's so many more. Here's another one. Again, these little icons and such, all of them taken from this artist's own work. A Bungie employee clearly was looking directly at it. They clearly copy and pasted it on over to the game. And clearly Bungie's legal team, or their entire team, nobody decided to maybe check any of this at all.
No, because nobody has time to. The product got finished. Now it's time to move on to the next thing. We got to go as fast as possible, spend as little amount of money as possible, as little effort as possible.
And this gets so much worse. I need people to understand. Like, the fact that Bungie didn't figure this out or didn't notice that they were directly stealing another individual, there's more damning pieces that point to them just being extremely lazy.
If they would have found out that it was stolen, but nobody knew about it, they wouldn't have said anything.
If they didn't know. And I almost feel like they had to have known. But yeah, here's another one. This is what I mean, like these little icons and everything.
Maybe the people who did it and the people around them knew, but they didn't say anything because it was too late. You know, it had already been done. The paperwork had been filed. That's how corporate bureaucracy goes, man. Once it's done, it's done. There ain't no going back. They had people building upon different mechanics and different things at the same time, then they threw it all together at once. That's how these companies do this. They don't work on it piece by piece and then just piece it together like a jigsaw. No, they take all the pieces, have one person paint on one piece, and have 500 people, and then piece them all together, and maybe you get some kind of image that's close to what you're wanting.
This came from the artist. It's just so blatant and so obvious. And this individual said, again, they said, Bungie is of course not obligated to hire me when making a game that draws overwhelmingly from the same design language. It's not that they literally stole it. I have refined for the last decade, but clearly my work was good enough to pillage for ideas. Again, the entire soul of this Marathon reboot is directly coming from this artist. I just don't know how you continue without this game being tainted, and I really don't know how Bungie moves forward without this game constantly being brought up, the fact that they just stole the entire identity from this artist. But they go on to say, clearly my work was good enough to pillage for ideas and plaster all over their game without payer attribution.
I think this might end up being the biggest disaster in gaming, even bigger than Concord. It might not lose as much money as Concord, but the sentiment among players is going to be really bad. Among the gaming community, it's going to be really bad. Like, they already had a rocky reputation, but they've completely ruined it.
I don't have the resources nor the energy to spare to pursue this legally, but I have lost count of the number of times a major company has deemed it easier to pay a designer to imitate or steal my work than to write me an email. And I've seen people joke, they're just like, why not just fucking use AI at this point instead of like literally stealing all of this? In 10 years, I've never made a consistent
because using AI still takes a little bit of effort, because you got to keep regenerating it so you can get something good. You got to plug assets into it. If you just rip everything off, then you see it and you just do it and you got it, and it's in and it's done.
Income from this work, and I am tired of designers from huge companies mood boarding and parasiting my designs while I struggle to make a living. And say what you will, they have to pay this individual millions. I don't care what you say, don't care the argument. This person's going to have to get a massive payout. Anything under that, I think that would be ridiculous. And I understand this individual doesn't want to go forward with the lawsuit because of the headache. They don't want to go after Sony and all that. But at the same time, I mean, I just don't know how you compensate this individual enough with the fact that the entirety of Marathon comes from this artist.
This is what companies like Bungie, Nintendo, Activision hope for. They hope that they can hurt the little guy, hurt the little artist, and then them just not have the energy, time, or money to actually go after them, and then they get away with it, and they can just keep doing it. And then the more they do it, the more people are used to it, and then the more nobody cares.
original work. And then this is where it gets even more fucking damning. I see that Joseph Cross also follows you. Is there any insight you can give about the connection there? He's followed me for a few years. Yes, Bungie employees and art director. The franchise art director followed him for a few years.
Yeah, I don't think this was an accident. I think it was blatant. I think they ripped this person off, and they were hoping that, like, it would be cheaper just to pay this person than to pay somebody to actually do the art for this. And I don't think that's going to be the case.
And a few others from Bungie never had any communication. And look, obviously a lot of individuals are blaming this on an outside contractor, but this is all stuff that Bungie had to...
That Rhino person at the bottom, completely right. You know what? Your art inspiration that they took is literally the only appealing thing about their train wreck game. I'm sorry they're doing this to you, and I hope you sue them. True. Like, seriously, it is actually the only thing good about it. There were some cinematics in the original trailer that were really cool, but it was based still on this person's art designs. And they were kind of ripping off Death Stranding vibes.
They should have noticed, and this is what I mean. It's not a former employee that followed Anti-Real. It's a current employee that followed. Unless you already made Joseph Cross a former employee, this screenshot came from firm Anti-Real.
Everybody's talking about Joseph Cross. I guarantee they're gonna fire him now.
The individual that obviously the original artist of all this, they were followed by the franchise art director. Again, this just looks so bad for Bungie and Sony. And then like I said, there's just so much more damning evidence that has been brought up. All of these designs come from this original artist's work, and this is all stuff that is featured in the Marathon Alpha. This is all stuff that I saw while playing.
So, like, this isn't one of those instances where they were just browsing Pinterest and were like, hey, you know what? This looks cool. I'm gonna make something that looks similar. No, this was an instance where they followed the person. Multiple people at the company followed the person, thought the art was cool, and just actually ripped it off.
The entire identity of this game was literally stolen from an artist's artwork. Yeah, look at all this. Everything. All of the ARGs, all of the marketing, they just said, let's just steal it from this individual and not at all even try to contact them. And then this is even funnier. This is genuinely insane, man. They straight up took your shit. And then this N2 person in 2024 said, I hid loss in my design 6 years ago and nobody caught on. And then here from the future, if anyone doubts the theft of your art, this also confirms that and the lost meme is very much there in the Marathon game, because of course it is. And to further this, Paul Tassi, Forbes journalist, he brought up, Jesus, this one is real bad. And yes, they literally scrubbed the artist's name out just to put in there.
Yeah, so, like, blatantly ripped off. I reacted to this whole thing yesterday. I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before yesterday. Yeah, this is disgusting. I actually forgot about this. Yeah, they blatantly ripped him off, ripped her off, and then erased her name from it. That's crazy. This N2 person. I think it's a chick. I heard somebody say it was a chick.
Like I said, either this has been something that they clearly knew was happening, or they're just extremely lazy and nobody at all looked at the, the textures and all of this stuff. And yeah, Anti-Real daily series, and they scrubbed it just a little bit so it wasn't noticeable. And here's another instance, more proof again, artist's original in-game texture. Again, it's so obvious, so blatantly, icons original, in-game texture. Yeah, like I said, it's just so obvious, so blatant. And then yeah, you can see it another different texture or something that looks similar, that you can see that they scrubbed out the name just so it wasn't noticeable. Even if this was an outside contract studio or whatever, this is absolutely fucking unacceptable.
Yeah, that's probably what they did. The art director probably hired some contracting company to do this. Probably Chinese also. That's probably why they didn't care.
And the Washington Post, Gene Park, did interview this artist. They said it was kind of vindicating to see direct plagiarism, because it meant I wasn't crazy for feeling so uncomfortable with the overall direction. I kept quiet about it because I was advised to seek legal action. But I don't have enough time or money to fly out to the US to pursue an unwinnable court case against Sony. And I don't know if this is unwinnable, to be honest.
Yeah, but like, that's the same sentiment so many people feel about companies like Nintendo and Activision and Bungie, EA. Like, even if they are wronged, even if it does seem winnable, it's gonna cost so much money, and they're gonna try and ruin you.
Like, I get it, Sony will probably keep this in the courts for so long, and I'm sure that they just want a massive paycheck from Bungie, which they're going to have to do. Like, they have to come out with a statement in the next couple of days saying that, yeah, we've come to an agreement with this artist, but this is just, so damning, especially with all the scandals that have happened the last couple of years with them stealing artwork. It just keeps on happening. And this time it came from a direct Bungie artist, it seems.
I think Sony's gonna have to gut this company completely. Might even have to shut it down. If things like this keep happening, they're gonna have to do something. Because the sentiment's getting really, really bad with this company.
And this is the response that the Marathon dev team has given. And it's another statement that's extremely not satisfying. It doesn't really say much. It says, "We immediately investigated a concern regarding unauthorized use of artist decals in Marathon and confirmed that a former Bungie artist, I wonder if this is referring to the, franchise art director that follows this artist the last couple of years. I wonder."
Yeah, I think what they did was they hired a company to, in quotes, make art, and then they added that art to a texture sheet.
Included these in a texture sheet that was ultimately used in game. I don't care what they say. The entire
Yeah, like unauthorized use of artist decals in Marathon, ultimately used in game. You mean the whole fucking game? Wasn't just used in the game, it is the game.
identity of Marathon is on that artist's portfolio. Like, this is bad. This is really, really fucking bad. They go on to
and it's gonna get so much worse, man. Because these corporations don't know how to do anything but be corporations.
say the issue was unknown by our existing art team. I don't know. And we are still reviewing how this oversight occurred.
I know how it occurred. You didn't care. You just glossed over it because it didn't take much time. It got done. You can move on to the next thing. Like I keep saying, that's what these corporations are like. Every single corporation is like this. I've worked for multiple, not in the gaming industry, but just multiple of different industries, and they're all the same. They cut corners to save costs, and they fire the good people when they want more money.
Maybe the part where they scrubbed the artist's name out, maybe that was the part of the art team they didn't want anybody to notice, but even that they did a lazy job with, which maybe that says a lot about Marathon and how it's been developed the last couple of years, because it clearly hasn't been thought out too well. We take matters like this very seriously. The last 4 incidents, I guess they didn't take those seriously because it keeps happening. We've reached out to the artist to discuss this issue and are committed to do right by this artist. As a matter of policy, again, anything less than millions of dollars, I would not touch. I would not settle. This is a winnable case. I don't care what they say.
You ever worked, say a restaurant job, right? You worked there and it was, people worked there. The turnover rate was really bad. They kept hiring new people all the time. The managers didn't care. The place was dirty. You have a guy that tells you when the health inspector is going to be showing up so you can hurry up and get the place clean before he gets there on a surprise visit, Corporations. It's what they do.
Bungie they have to compromise. They have to come to some sort of agreement with this individual no matter what. Like, this is bad. As a matter of policy, we do not use the work of artists without their permission.
As a matter of policy, at McDonald's, it's part of their policy that you're not allowed to eat the chicken nuggets while you're at work. But people do. And it's also technically illegal. I have a great example of something that corporations like to do. My stepdad's girlfriend worked at a grocery store, right? She was on her lunch break. She decided that she was going to buy some donuts. So she grabbed a box of donuts and she was going up there to pay for them. And before she was paying for them while she was standing in line, she was eating one of the donuts. She got fired for theft. Fucking ridiculous. Corporations.
Really? You sure about that, Bungie? You sure about that? To prevent similar issues in the future, we're conducting a thorough review of our in-game assets, specifically those done by the former Bungie artist, and implementing stricter checks to document all artist contributions.
Stricter checks isn't going to help. You have to hire better people. You're putting money in the wrong place. My God, they're fucking retarded.
We value the creativity and dedication of all artists who contribute to our games. We are committed to doing right by them. Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Meanwhile, there's still that person that they didn't pay. So, what they just said there is bullshit.
God. And like I said, Joseph Cross, the art director, he did say, so lucky to have worked with, this is an outsourced company. I'm sure that they probably have somebody that, I have to assume that they were partially responsible, or they did some of this work. Or maybe it really just was Bungie employees being extremely lazy.
It was just, Bungie. Bungie itself. It doesn't matter if the employees are lazy. Fire them. Hire better employees. You fired the wrong employees and you forced the wrong employees out. And this is what you get.
Or maybe this is just a massive scandal and they knew. Who knows? But right now, this is just as ugly as it gets for this game. The original artist, their post, I believe it has over 39,000 likes right now. 43.
You think somebody may have sabotaged them on purpose? It's possible. Maybe somebody at Sony, so that they can have an excuse to gut the company and not have everybody be mad. Everybody would actually be happy if Sony gutted this company. But if this didn't happen, none of this happened, and Sony gutted Bungie, everybody'd be upset. But I don't think they will be now.
This is as bad as it gets in terms of negative publicity. We have seen, like I said, other individuals, commentators have said, my name is Biff, saying, okay, but this is more than just a few in-game textures, rightfully pointing that out. There's a few visual languages in Anti-Real's portfolio that is dripping in the same art style as New Marathon years before the game was even announced. It was all over the ARG2. So like I said, they're trying to make it out to be that it was just like a texture sheet they stole this. I don't know. Like, the entire soul of this game seemingly came from this artist's original work. We got more posts. Insane to think that several people sat there getting paid to copy and paste stolen assets. This level of thievery is...
Yeah, they just work at a corporation. They're not working to make a good game that will, you know, break records and be super popular and everybody love them. No, they're just trying to get paid.
Genuinely mind-blowing. It's like the entire brand identity of the game just stolen from an independent artist. That's exactly what happened here. Even if N2 or Anti-Real decides to take a deal, they need to lawyer up. Pretty safe to say that their icons is key to the visual language of Marathon. From top to bottom, the world was designed to accommodate it.
Okay, so like, even if they compensate this person and everything is hunky-dory, I don't care. They still did it. And they're still gonna do it, and there's still other cases where they did it and they haven't made it right. I guarantee you, as soon as everybody forgets about this, as soon as this leaves the news cycle, they're not gonna pay this person, they're not gonna compensate this person. This game's probably gonna come out and then they're gonna shut it down. I can see it, I'm calling it now. And if they don't do that, then, you know, I've got something to talk about anyway. I'll talk about the fact that they did do it, and if they don't do it, then I'm going to talk about the fact that they didn't do it and should have.
Which is what I've been trying to emphasize throughout this video talking about the subject. That's massive. Bungie will rip them off if M2 doesn't have proper advisors, or N2. I do agree. I agree with that. Like I said, I wouldn't settle unless you get millions of dollars, and even then, maybe they're entitled for more at this point. And then this...
Yeah, 25% royalties is what I think of all profits, which might end up being cheaper for Bungie in the long run. If this game absolutely fails and doesn't make any money, then they're not out millions of dollars. Well, that they have to pay that person, they're out millions of dollars on this game.
This is what's been happening on the Marathon Discord. Many individuals going after Bungie, obviously ripping them for all this. Joseph Cross being caught following the artist they stole from. Yeah, this is bad, guys. This is bad. So we canceling the live stream because they're supposed to have a live stream today. I'm sure they have to cancel it, or y'all gonna take it on the chin. We'll see what happens with that.
No, they did the live stream and it was abysmal. They had issues the entire time. Check out Asmongold's video. He watched it.
Another individual saying Bungie abandoned the original art style to steal someone else's work. Yeah, this is what Marathon was back in the 90s.
And it looks so cool. I want to go back and play it, but I heard it's actually really difficult and kind of broken.
And that's why a lot of people were very confused with the art direction that they're taking with this new Marathon reboot. But myself, I thought it was actually
broken because it's an old game and it's hard to get old games to work, is what I mean. It's a good game. Good games.
I thought it was pretty interesting, something that was unique. I said that on my own Twitter account, and even playing it, I thought that was the one thing that actually worked with this. But now knowing that most of it was stolen, I think that just puts this in a different light. Another individual, Paris, commentator, saying this stolen artwork used in Marathon is extremely disappointing, and Bungie leadership needs to take full responsibility by compensating the artists and completely removing it all from the game.
I think disappointing is the wrong word, because disappointing kind of implies that you didn't see it coming and then it happened. I think more like, this is bullshit. This is bullshit, and I saw it coming a mile away. 10 miles away.
The problem is the entire soul of this game came from this artist. How much of the game can you, like, just, you know, take out? Or how much can you take out of this artist's work? I just genuinely don't know. Delay Marathon, that's an obvious. They should have already done that after that closed alpha didn't turn out the way that they hoped for.
Give the original creator of the art millions of dollars or 25% royalties, and then cell shade everything. Please, for the love of God, just do this. Well, somebody, please, watching this video who's like attached to Bungie somehow, let them know. Just cell shade it.
The game already had problems and in my opinion was launching incomplete. I agree, it's bare bones in terms of content, but now you can't explain this away and pretend everything is okay. I feel bad for all the devs who had nothing to do with this, but this is inexcusable and a horrible look for Bungie. I agree with that latter part of that statement. We had a YouTuber, Hidden Xperia, saying, already been said, but practically the entire aesthetic backbone of Marathon is either severely based upon another artist's specific style, B, straight up copied from their portfolio. This goes far beyond a few stolen decals, which is what they're trying to make it out to be. I genuinely don't know how this gets resolved. And I think this only gets resolved with them paying millions of dollars. But the problem is, do you take all this content out? And it's tainted no matter what. And that's a problem that Bungie and Sony are now going to run into. No matter what this game is going.
Shut it down and rework it, I guess. You're going to have to spend double the money now because of this. And it's your own fucking fault, Bungie. I don't feel bad. I think it's hilarious, actually. I feel bad for the artist.
To have to get delayed. They're going to have to change things, I think, drastically in terms of game content and also its art design.
They're not gonna. They're gonna try and push it and see if it works, and then if it doesn't work how they want it, they'll shut it down.
If this is just a mess, this is an absolute mess for a game that almost feels like it's maybe destined for maybe the Concord treatment in the future. I would not be surprised.
I wonder what Sony thinks about this. I wonder what the sentiment at Sony is about Bungie and Marathon. We'll probably get some leaks. I guarantee we'll get some leaks before this game comes out, what Sony thinks about this game.
I think there is a possibility this ends up just getting canceled. But hey, maybe not.
I think it's going to get canceled. I hope it gets canceled. It's probably not going to get canceled, but I think it's going to get canceled.
I mean, they are planning still September launch. I just feel like a delay announcement is on the horizon. It has to be. But yeah, this has been Bungie in 2025 and really the last couple of years. A very
Is this going to be one of those situations where they have a game that's finished? Well, kind of finished. As much as a live service modern game can be finished, which is not at all, except for maybe like a month after its release. And then still, it's a live service game, so it's not finished. Is this going to be one of those situations where they shut down and don't release a finished game? A game that's ready to release is just gonna not release?
Embarrassing company. Each of these scandals, it's just this isn't the Bungie that I grew up with. And I think that's very obvious with many of the employees, many of the veterans that made this company who they were during the Halo days and even the early Destiny days. They're long gone. And this is just another scandal, many more scandals that continues to embarrass this once amazing company. But what do you make of them stealing from Marathon and also the Destiny 2 Red War lawsuit? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But thank you for watching.
They've lost track of themselves. The company is rotting. There's rot inside the company. They're just trying to cut corners, make as much money as possible. That's what happens when you build a game off of making as much money as possible, and then it fails, and then you try and fix it to make as much money as possible, and then you rework the whole company to make as much money as possible. You start cutting corners to make as much money as possible. And if they don't shut it down, and they keep it going and it's an absolute failure, or, you know, it's a good game, or it's mid-game, it does all right, I'm not going to be mad about it. I'm not mad about these things. I don't play any of these games anyway. It's just like, I'm dumbfounded, kerfuffled, perturbed. Any other words that mean that I'm very confused by this whole thing? Like, it blows my mind. That's all I got for this video. Buy a t-shirt down there in the description, or a mug or a hat or something. I'm out.